Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. You're listening to Java with Jimmy.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Today is Thursday, May 4th, 2023, and it's cold. I'm just going to leave it like that. The heat came on last night, and it's cold. Listen, we are here this morning to talk. You know, we often move in the space of electoral politics, elections, campaigns, bringing the information and awareness to mobilize us toward action to improve our quality of life. And that is done partially speaking to your neighbor, partially by being aware of what's going on in the community, partially by participating in your parent and teacher association, your neighborhood association. But it's also important to participate and support candidates. This is a huge election year, specifically in Boston, but the guest I'm bringing in does not move just in the area of Boston. And so I can give him he sent me his bio, which is impressive. But I've known this young man, I think, shake your head in the background. Was it 2008, 2009? What year did you come in as an intern in press? 2008, 2009, 2008. So I've known this young man for 15 years and have seen him excel in spaces where you usually don't see folks that look like us. And so he has done a lot in the area of politics, and he's here this morning to chat with us about a fund. He's going to tell us why it's called the 1866 Fund. I have the website, I have everything, but we're going to hear directly from him. We're going to hear a little bit about his history and how he wound up in this space as a CEO, an entrepreneur that is essentially working toward getting us more involved in the process and getting Black candidates, down ballot Black candidates. And so we are going to bring into the Java Cafe a former colleague who has morphed into a good friend and brother by the name of Reynolds Graves. Now, he's a very poised, articulate, he's in comms, but I'm going to push him to share the information, but just be real with us today. Let his hair down and just chat with us about what's going on with the 1866 Fund. So without further ado, I would like to present to some and introduce to others, Mr. Reynolds D. Graves, CEO of the Graves Group and chair of the 1866 Action Fund. What's up, brother?
Jimmy, good morning. Thank you. Good to be with you, man.
Sir?
I'm great. And, congrats on the show. This is my first time on your show. I've known you for years, as you mentioned, but I remember when you launched this thing, you used to do that little dance when you came in. You should bring that back.
Did you just call out the Jimmy Shimmy?
I did call out the Jimmy Shimmy, man. But, you're Jimmy. I got my Java. Happy to be with you today. And to all the Star Wars fans out there, may the 4th be with you.
I'm not messing with you. So Reynolds, I mentioned that, I met you 15 years ago in the mayor's office. You were a press office intern. And so give us a little bit up until that and give us, what's your story, sir? Why are you in this space? Tell us a little bit about your experience. Let the audience know who you are, because when it comes to this space of electoral politics and whatnot, folks have to be able to trust those that are in the cafe. And so tell us a little bit about your story and who you are.
Sure. Thank you. And again, happy to be with you and all the viewers and listeners today. So my name is Reynolds Graves. I was born in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit. I went to college in Virginia, Hampton University, and then came up here to UMass Boston, and immediately started working with Governor Patrick. I was an unpaid intern in his administration. for about a year. I remember applying on the bus on the way here to Boston, just on a whim. I was like, well, I'm going to school in Boston. I might as well find something to do. And it turned into that. And as they say, the rest is history. But that led to multiple campaigns. It led to reporting for the Bay State Banner, which is eventually how I was covering the Jazz at the Fort concert on Fort Hill with Mayor Menino, who was present. Dot Joyce gave me a pull aside to get a quote from him about how great the event was, and then Menino, he's known for doing this, I guess, offering people jobs on the spot, right? So he was like, "Hey, what are you doing this fall?" I was like, "Going back to UMass Boss." He said, "Well, why don't you come on in and work out in the office?" So I was like, "Okay." That was my first internship with the city of Boston. Another intern at the time, actually, who I met was Michelle Wu.
Thank you, because Reynolds, a lot of people don't, I mention it once in a while, but we met Mayor Wu, Michelle Wu, when she was an intern sitting on the 5th floor over, I believe, in front of his office.
Legal. Yeah, she was legal or something. Obviously I was sorting the newspapers and doing copy editing on the press releases. She was, not to say it wasn't real work, but I think she was doing something more substantive, I would say.
Policy.
And yeah, exactly. And so, that kind of, so Governor Patrick, Mayor Menino, Bay State Banner, I applied 3 times for an internship with the United States State Department, ended up getting one finally at the embassy in Cairo, moved there, lived there for a few months prior to the Arab Spring. It was in the elevator where the ambassador was like, you've had a great time here. You should try to go for the White House internship. I was like, you're insane. But I did and got it. Moved to Washington. And that was my 3rd time there. After my freshman and sophomore year, I interned on Capitol Hill, 07 and 08, 112th Congress. Great experiences there. And then it was, time to, after the White House, it was time to finish college and get a real job. Actually, my first job out of college was at the Berkeley College of Music, which was, I was working with the city music program. I was the national coordinator. So flying all over the country, making sure the curriculum was up to snuff and they were educating kids that had the talent, but not necessarily the means to attend Berkeley, which is what, 62 a year or something like that. Great program, but politics is my first love. I grew up around it. My family's in it. I'm just familiar with it. It's a comfort space for me. It is something that I believe in. I believe in the political process. I believe in the legislative process. I believe in governing. I believe in campaigning in campaigning in poetry and governing in prose. I've seen change affected. I've been a part of change that has been implemented. So I believe in it. And went back to Governor Patrick's administration. Started in constituent services, answering the phone, Governor Patrick's office. How can I help you? Oh, Mrs. Jones, cat in a tree again. Got it. Okay. Or, you get all types of calls at those lines, right? You get people literally doing phone banking, people coordinating a whole bunch of calls to talk to you about a certain bill that they want the governor to sign. Really, you are on the front lines of government. Love that. And to this day, I believe in constituent services is the nuts and bolts and the kind of meat of government. That's where policy comes from. And I've also got the special affinity for state and local politics, which is bringing me to the Action Fund, which we'll get to in a second. But after Governor Patrick's administration, went to City Hall to work for Tito Jackson, good brother there. I was his deputy chief of staff.
All of this is coming back, Reynolds. Wow,
yeah, man. So back in City Hall, which is just like, out of all the government buildings I've worked in, I think Boston City Hall is one of my favorites. It is literally where the rubber meets the road, quite literally. And it's just where you can affect change on a daily basis. After that, it was, I didn't even really know what a lobbyist was. I think in Tito's office and in City Halls, where I first started seeing lobbyists kind of, roaming the floor. I learned what the flow of how it works and how they raise issues. And, some lobbyists are over here doing whatever, and some are over here supporting good causes. So I went to what I thought of at the time and knew of and still is, one of the best lobbying firms in the city, which is Rasky Partners. I was able to work under the tutelage of folks like Larry Rasky, who's obviously, may he rest in peace, a legend. But he and the team over there really taught me the game of what it is to represent someone's issues and interests before elected officials or even on a grassroots level. And it was, fascinating. I loved it. And a lot of it was being able to utilize my network and my personal relationships with politicians, and say, hey, here is St. Mary's Center for Women and Children in Dorchester.
Yep.
They are looking to raise the profile of what maternal health can look like from a public health perspective.
Yep.
There are a few bills that they want to support and advocate for. What say you, chair of the health committee? What say you, chair of Ways and Means? That was essentially the first kind of foray for me into lobbying. Fell in love with it. Also then started doing a little bit of fundraising, started diving into the both fundraising for candidates, but also some of our clients had PACs. The American Academy for Family Physicians had a PAC, and as a mechanism to use their influence.
Let's get ready to jump into that. So going to jump around a little bit. Before we go into it, let's explain what a PAC is. Give us a short and skinny layman's level of what a PAC is. It stands for Political Action Committee.
Correct.
You want to say very impressive career and lends to your ability to navigate and knowledge base around getting some things done down ballot Black candidates. And we're going to get to that. But what is a PAC? What is it? What is it?
Sure. So a PAC, as you said, Political Action Committee.
Mm-hmm.
It is a legal registered entity that is allowed to and pretty much functions as a mechanism to raise funds to support or sometimes oppose candidates.
Yep. And issues.
And issues, yes. Ballot questions, right? Referendums, what have you. But via these funds, PACs are able to donate to campaigns. So, Jimmy, when you run for governor finally, a PAC will be able to, you heard me. A PAC will be able to donate to your campaign.
Yeah.
Right. And that is direct influx of cash into your campaign account. However, in Massachusetts, there are some of the most strict campaign finance laws in the country. It's very limiting. And by very limiting, I mean that there are $1,000 limits per person. I can only give you $1,000 every 365 days.
And that's only been within the past few years, because that limit used to be lower.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
increased.
Right. I think it was 5, then it was 1,000. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And so PACs are able to. It's kind of like think of it as like a lobby, if you will, a collective body of people saying, we are the Support the Wild Fish PAC, and our interests are to make sure that Jamaica Pond is restocked every spring, and that we've got trout and bass and salmon, right?
Yeah.
And so their issues are going to be primarily focused on fish. How do they do that? They can do a billboard in Grove Hall saying support the fish. They can do a mailer that hits your door saying support the fish. They can do a robocall on your phone. They can do a text to vote. Right. So they are political entities that activate and mobilize an electorate to either support an issue or a candidate. Right. So this PAC, the Brothers That Love to Wear Red PAC, supports Jimmy for governor.
You were just messing this morning. Okay, go ahead.
Supports, Jimmy for governor. And we will do things to raise his profile, like a drive time radio ad or a robocall. Or a digital ad on your Facebook or Instagram. It's mainly used for paid media purposes, but also grassroots initiatives. So the canvases on Saturdays that often candidates will host, in Mattapan Square. All right, everybody, let's rally and meet up and go knock some doors. And that's candidates can do that, obviously, and they do that as part of their campaign grassroots efforts. PACs too can do that.
Yeah.
PACs can say, Brothers That Love to Wear Red is meeting up in Nubian and and we are going to knock doors for our endorsed slate of candidates, perhaps, or for this candidate, or for this ballot question issue.
Gotcha.
So, hope I kind of explained it. And we can get into, there's different levels of PACs, right? There's a PAC, like I mentioned, in Massachusetts, can only give actually $500 a year to a campaign.
Yeah.
And that is limited. And then campaigns are limited with how much PAC money they can take in.
Actually receive.
I think that aggregate is like 28 or something, I think, for a calendar election year. So what we are doing, the 1866 Action Fund, is what's called a super PAC, or that's the slang term for it. Yeah. The technical term is IE PAC, Independent Expenditure Political Action Committee. Mm-hmm. So instead of me giving your campaign $500 so y'all can spend it on pizza, we are an IE PAC. An IE PAC is using the funds to expend on behalf of or supporting a candidate, not directly to the the campaign.
And they have no, let's just name that they can have no direct communication with the campaign.
No coordination is technically the term. And
Mm.
coordination is a loose thing, but like for me, like, you know, as you mentioned, got a lot of friends in politics, got a lot of friends in the political arena. You know, I'm having to say, like, sorry, bro, like, you know, can't talk to you, love you, man, but, you know, supporting you from afar, which is fine. You know, it's you know, we will eventually be supporting campaigns that go through, or candidates that go through our endorsement process, right? But yeah, we are not in the ability to coordinate. So coordinate would look like we know that a campaign is going to roll out a policy on how they're going to fix every single pothole in the city.
Gotcha.
And we know they're going to do that on Tuesday. So we are going to drop a robocall ad on Monday night and then and Tuesday morning. And so when they roll out their thing Tuesday at noon, it's all coordinated. That is the effort. That is the message out in the atmosphere. That is prohibited from even occurring. And, you know, you can pretty much could probably get shut down. I mean, I hope to never really explore what the we've got. Trust me, we've got legal representation to keep us above board and keep us going strong. So
good stuff on the overview of the pack. And so quickly, like 45 seconds.
Yeah.
The difference between these super PACs and PACs when it comes to BIPOC candidates and candidates who aren't. Talk real quick, national perspective or local. Is there equity when it comes to these super PACs? Yes or no? And give us a 45-second overview.
I would argue no.
Okay.
I would argue that let's talk Massachusetts for a second before I go nationally. When you look at Massachusetts, you've kind of got the big ones out here, right? And sometimes I'm not going to name any names, but more often than not, Black candidates or candidates of color are averse to participating in their endorsement process for various reasons. One, this is politics. It's all local. It's a small town. The fix might already be in. You might already know who this PAC is going to support. So some candidates will be like, nah, I'm not going to take the time to go through their endorsement process and their questionnaire. I got to hit 5 churches and 8 community centers and, you know, two food drives in 7 days. Like, I don't have time to sit there and do this.
And we know that most of these candidates don't actually sit there themselves. Let's just be real.
I was going to get to that. Yeah.
They don't fill them out themselves. They're staff. And so
staff and volunteers, right? If you got, you know, if you're going for an endorsement from a certain sector, you've got someone who's worked in it to fill it out, right?
You got the education person filling out the education package.
You got the healthcare person, and candidates of color, we don't necessarily have the strongest networks in that. So we always have someone to tap that's in a certain sector or a part of a certain interest group that can just snap to it and do this thing in their free time.
And that's why I asked that question, to get us to the point of what is the uniqueness of the 1866 Action Fund? Why was it formed? What's its purpose? Because that is the meat of why you're here. And tell us about the 1866 Fund and what its intention is for getting folks in. And let's just name Reynolds, and we know this, all skin don't mean kin. And so generally, it's believed that when there is a presumed shared life experience because of either presumed race, ethnicity, culture, that there are shared values, and there oftentimes is a presumption that when there's sort of that intersectionality of culture, race, ethnicity, that said perceived powers, electeds, whatever, would share values. But sometimes that's not always the case. And so I just want to, that's me, that. But there is a focus on Black candidates, one, because of inequity, and two, that belief that shared experience is going to promote shared values. And so what is the uniqueness of 1866? Tell us about 1866.
Yeah, sure. But if I can, I want to kind of touch on the national part, and then which kind of led me to
real quick
PACs, which kind of led me to this. Yeah. So as I mentioned, I've worked alongside PACs, right, in kind of strategy previously as a lobbyist, as a consultant, specifically at SKD Knickerbocker in New York City, one of the best public affairs and political firms in the country. I worked with a PAC called the Collective PAC, which is a national PAC that supports Black candidates into office. Literally, their slogan is to build Black political power. The first candidate they endorsed was Kamala Harris, then Attorney General of California. She became
Mhm.
a senator. Obviously, rest is history. So seeing that model, and there's others out there nationally. There's Black PAC. There's elect Black Democrats. There's a whole bunch of entities now that are popping up nationally. Um, Having this experience for myself, working with these national PACs and working with state and local PACs here in Massachusetts, I was like, well, why can't we just do this here? Like, I don't get it. This is kind of a model that you can replicate. So, or just take different pieces from. Like, I'm not copying anybody. We are taking from, certain
Best
aspects.
practices.
Yeah, exactly. Best practices from others. So, which brings me to the 1866 Action Fund. So, just for viewers and folks who might not know this, and yourself, the first time that we elected Blacks to the legislature here in Massachusetts was the year 1866.
Mhm.
It was a lawyer from Charlestown, Charles Lewis Mitchell, and Edward Garrison, who was a printer in the Back Bay. And this was 1866. So Civil War ended in 65, right? So imagine this is the year after, and these brothers were sitting around in Charlestown and the Back Bay being like, well, hey, we
Charlestown
free.
and Back Bay. That's a whole nother. Go ahead.
Hold it, yeah. So they're sitting around in their neighborhood saying, well, shoot, we free. What we gonna do? And wanted to and had the courage to stand up and take the interests and needs and focus of their communities to make it into policy, legislation, and law. To me, when I read that, it was on like the mass.gov website. It's public information that's out there. It was fascinating. I was like, wow, I can't even imagine. As someone who supported candidates at every level, city council, as I moved back to run Danielle Allen's campaign for governor.
Yep.
It takes courage to stand up and say, I want to run for office. To me, and I think to others that I've discussed, I can't imagine what was going through their mind in 1866. Like, that takes guts to be like, I want to run for office. So that was the first time that we put folks into office. And so we named it 1866 Action Fund in a sense to, one, remind people of that, and specifically to remind them that we belong in the political arena. There is a space for us here. We are supposed to be here. And we built this country for free. And therefore we need to make sure that we have a voice. And you see all the studies and all the talk now. King Boston, the Embrace, and Tufts, James Jennings just put out a study about the shifting population of the Black population in Massachusetts.
Yes.
We have left Greater Boston, or are currently leaving Greater Boston since the 2010-2020 census. We're moving to Brockton, right, which is like the new Black headquarters of Eastern Massachusetts.
I heard
Hello,
that.
yeah. We're moving to Lawrence and Lowell. We're moving to Methuen. We're moving to Swamps. Well,
That's a little bit. That's a little bit by design, right? But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sure. Whatever the factors might be that led us to there, that is the fact that we are doing. And as we said in our kind of first launch email, just because we are moving doesn't mean that our political ideals or the needs to represent the Black community's ideals stays where we moved from. Just if I move from Boston to Stoughton, my ambitions for political office, one's recognition of the issues that impact their community, do not stay in Boston. They travel with you to Stoughton, and the need to represent those interests, especially of new families moving into a town. Right? You're talking about things like setting up shop with housing and new public safety initiatives and recovering from COVID and public health stuff. Like, our communities need to have that political representation. So the theory here is that as this population is shifting, we should elect leaders that can cater to and have those interests at heart, that cater to the Black community.
No matter where they are. I think another balance to that is too, and you know how Boston is, if you're not from here, or if you leave after spending a lifetime here because you can't afford rent or the housing market here, there's sometimes this wall that's put up that you're no longer here, but it doesn't negate the fact that you still care about the hood from which you came.
Right,
so
exactly.
That other perspective as well. And so we have the 1866 fund. Thank you for folks for helping folks make the correlation to that date. The thing that stood out about that too was when you talked about a year after the Civil War, where racism and probably not even coined so much like that, but the way of life for Black folks that they were used to, there is an attempt to make America great again. And so my point is, if they did that a year out and in this current climate, the significance of that correlation, I think, is huge because there's so much that's fighting against us. And so bring us up from then until today, what and how are you doing to get well, first of all, can you tell us what are down ballot
Yeah,
candidates? What is
happy to. Right. And so we're hoping to keep that same energy, as the kids say, from 1866 and bring it to today. And down ballot, and this is, I want to be very specific about this because since we launched, as you can imagine, we've gotten a bunch of incoming from across the Commonwealth, right? Which have been like, what does that mean?
Yep.
So down ballot, when you go to vote on election day, let's say not this year because there's no mayors on the ballot necessarily, but you look at your ballot and you typically see an executive office at the top and then a bunch of offices below that. So you'll see governor and then LG, AG, secretary of state, whatever. And then state legislature. So you'll see state senate, state house, governor's council, whatever. This cycle, you're going to walk in and you're going to see city council and school committee. Previously, a couple months ago, you saw select board in towns around the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
And so down ballot are those races that are literally that. I mean, down ballot. So essentially executive office from below executive office. So the 1866 Action Fund is going to strictly only support down ballot. So we are not and never will be very clear.
Don't listen. Don't let folks go and the trolls take a clip from here and say never because you don't know how things are going to shift.
Oh no, we're gonna keep this for real because all the attention in politics, all the money and the influx typically always goes to those running for mayor, governor, LG, secretary of state, you name it, right? Yeah. These folks running for city council and school committee and select board and whatever are overlooked. Yeah. No super PAC wants to endorse them. Nobody wants to play in the sandbox with them. And just like, okay, fine, whatever. And there's also kind of the theory that rising tides lift all boats. If a candidate at the top of the ballot endorses you, then you'll be fine. Yeah, no. There still needs to be support for these direct candidates. So the down ballot is just that. It's the city council, it's the school committee, it's the select board, it's the governor's council, it's the DA, it's the sheriff, right? And that's what we're looking at.
Say? All politics are local.
Yeah, exactly. And so local politics is where it's at. It's where it's at for me. Like I mentioned, that's the universe that I professionally choose to dabble in. And it's too about when it comes to the future of politics. Andrea Campbell was a city councilor. Ayanna Pressley was a city councilor. Michelle Wu was a city councilor. When you're talking about building a bench, so to speak, it starts at the local level. It is not. It is rarely somebody saying, I want to run for mayor, and then like that's the bench. It's kind of So it starts local, especially for candidates of color. The first entry that you could probably go for is a local office, which might have a total spend target of 35 to 50K for a district seat, right? Whether it's Boston, Worcester, Springfield, whatever, Lowell, Lawrence. So there's a low barrier to entry financially there, somewhat. And so we're looking to do that, looking to support those candidates because those issues are paramount, and those folks are the ones who are really in the chamber making those policies and decisions that are then signed off on by a mayor or a governor or what have you. So it starts at the local level for sure.
Let me ask you to we're talking about local level. Describe Boston politics and what this is a little lightning round. We're going to get it. This is a little bit of the meat, but describe Boston politics in one word.
Evolving.
You're so good.
That wasn't the answer you wanted, huh?
I didn't know whether you were going to go.
You want me to elaborate?
Well, I get why evolving.
Yeah.
Elaborate. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's changing, right? You've seen you've seen the city council, for instance, change in just demographics, right? Mm-hmm. You've also seen a change in the issues in which they're raising.
Yep.
You got payment in lieu of taxes stuff. You've got, we had to bring in casinos. Now the state legislature is doing sports betting and gambling, right? But you've seen also in the legislature, you've seen in the Boston delegation, you've seen that become more diverse, right? We've got the first Cape Verdean state senator in the country.
Yes.
Hello. Pretty cool. Shout out Liz Miranda. But you've got the most you got more representation by women in politics, I think, in Boston, which is fantastic. That was definitely a rising tide that lifted all boats, right? Yeah. I would definitely tip the hat to sister and big sis Ayanna Pressley on that one.
Absolutely.
And others. And so it's evolving. I think it's always going to continue to evolve. That's the thing about politics. It never stays the same. It is look, I've worked in plenty of public offices, as I mentioned, and there is no one day that is the same. And I don't think that in electoral politics or even in a chamber, whether it's the Ionella or the Cambridge City Council chamber or Worcester or whatever, it's always going to change. It's evolving, and that's the beauty of kind of the public policy, tug of war here. So
Do you believe
evolving.
that folks are happy that it's evolving? Generally, okay. From a historical context, do you think generally there's appreciation for the evolution of where we are in Boston politics?
I mean, I think
where with this.
Yeah, I think the electorate could only be pleased with that. I think if it were the status quo, that would be kind of boring. That would be stagnant. That wouldn't necessarily be progress. Even if there are extremes, it still creates an evolution and provides the opportunity for a political revolution, if you will. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, the public is obviously there are frustrations, no doubt. There always will be frustrations in politics with the public for sure. But I think that, yeah.
I was really talking about your typical demographic of a Boston Poly candidate. That's sort of where I was going. And when
sure, yeah, it's different now. It's different now. This is not your granddaddy's Boston City Council, right? This is not the Boston City Council of yore, if you will. And even at that, it's we shifted correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure your viewers will come at me in the comments, but 80s or 90s, we shifted from the all at large to district councils.
I believe it was the early 80s. I believe
early 80s, yeah, to create an opportunity for candidates of color, right? To get elected so that is even an evolution, right? We're going to have an elected school committee in Boston eventually, right? What will that? Who knows, right? But what will that look like? And that is also an evolution, in that process too.
I wanted to bring out that point, Reynolds, because we're getting to the point of now action. This is an action fund, and for the audience to be able to understand. In this municipal election year, and with everything that's going on with redistricting and some of what we've observed in politics and some of the just nastiness, the electoral politics is sort of the public front-facing campaign, and then you and I know that there's the after five and text messages, and back in the day it was phone calls and not as many texts. And if you're smart, you didn't put it in text. What is it? What is it? Nod when you something about Judith Curlin used to say nod when you can't speak or something, but basically, anyway, my point is that there is an interesting side to this where we have to be very intentional and to some extent aggressive, because what I alluded to a few moments ago, the typical Boston Poly stronghold hands are slowly but surely, each finger is being pulled back to open up this level of diversity. And while it's a good thing that most of us appreciate, the typical stronghold is scared. And so I want to get into a point now. How do we get involved and support these down ballot candidates and stay aware of what the Action Fund is doing?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And so also just want to clarify for the show and the viewers too. Yeah, I am a Bostonian. I live in Boston, but this 1866 Action Fund is looking to be active statewide across the Commonwealth.
Absolutely.
We have received, since we launched, grassroots donations from each of the 14 counties in the Commonwealth. We've had candidates from Peabody to the Vineyard to Pittsfield to Springfield to Worcester reach out and say, "What's up? How do I do this?" And quite frankly, just so that we're saying, participate in our endorsement process once you make the ballot. No one's on the ballot yet, so we've got time here. Folks will be on the ballot first week of June, but there are technically not any declared candidates yet. But sure, how can you support? Well, there's a few ways. First, raise the issue of the importance and as folks are doing often, the importance of local leaders and local politics. I personally wish that more people would focus on that. I personally wish that more people would not just come out every 4 years for president, right? In Massachusetts, the way our stuff is set up, we've pretty much got an election every year. We elect governor in the off year. We elect city council in the off year.
And then we're back. We vote every year.
Essentially, we vote every year.
Not Massachusetts as a whole, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, like Massachusetts across the Commonwealth this year will elect city
So
council
we
and
do
school
vote every
committee.
year. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so raising the importance of what matters about your local community and why it matters to support these down ballot candidates that are the ones you're going to call to get your street fixed,
Yeah.
or the
Or
ones you're going to call about trash removal, or the ones you're going to call about your schools and all that kind of stuff, right? So raising that issue, raising that awareness is really how folks can support. Also raising the issue of the difficulty that black candidates face. Often politics is my uncle, who's had a long career in politics, has always said politics is there's a one word definition of politics, and it's money. And to which I always, engage, and I'm going to see him this weekend. I always engage in a somewhat of a healthy debate. I said, well, Uncle Doug, it's also time. He said, well, what is time? I'm like, yeah, time is money. So you can't really have a formidable campaign without money. And oftentimes to be competitive, you need to have money. And so raising the importance of the need for money in campaigns and in politics is important. And I would say it's on us to not be intimidated by that. I think a lot of times people are intimidated by the political process because they see that it means money or costs money, and they just for whatever reason are automatically kind of tuned out.
Yep.
And so spreading that message of just why this stuff is important and why it matters, and then in turn you will get to, okay, there's a fund, there's an IE PAC that is looking to support down ballot black candidates. So letting that person know at your church, if they are saying, well, not necessarily in the nave or anything, because it's separation of church and state here, but that community member that is thinking about running for school committee, or that is thinking about running for city council, let them know that there's a super PAC out there that they could potentially seek an endorsement from, and that would support them. Hey, look, I know you maybe think you can only raise 5K, right? And this entrenched, person, or this big candidate with all this support that's got all the people lined up behind them is probably going to raise 50. However, there's a fund out there for us, by us, that can help us. That could potentially, if you are fortunate enough to gain their endorsement, could go ahead and do a little spend on you. And sometimes that little spend could just be text of GOTV vote weekend. It could be raising your profile and helping that candidate get some more donations by just tagging them on our platform. Could be a grassroots activation with the canvas on a Saturday. Could be your name in lights on a billboard, Jimmy. It could be whatever sources of paid media that we are going to tap into to divvy up. The mailers that come in your.
Say that part again. What sources?
Your name in sources of paid media. Yeah. Yeah. Paid media. So the stuff that comes in your mailbox, the big mailer. Look, I've designed too many of them, and they are very expensive. To mail a universe in a Boston City Council race, for instance, in a district is about somewhere between 12 to 15K in a primary. That's one round of likely Democratic voters. That's a lot of money, but our white counterparts, quite frankly, get that money just kind of thrown at them from super PACs, or they have it within their campaign fund to be able to do that. They know they can raise 100K, and they know that out of that 100K, 35 of it is going to be just paid media. So
can I chime in a little bit? And again, this is not you saying this, and you can give, nod, any opinion, agree. It's important that while we understand this, finances, and take a little bit to the scripture, money answereth all things. That's actually in the Bible. It answereth all things. There's an issue, more than likely, when you pull all the onion back and peel it back, it's going to boil down to something to do with money. And so I want to raise the point, and I haven't always done best at this, but donating to candidates, donating to this fund and funds where they are, where I believe it comes to values when it comes to donations and candidates. If there are shared values, people, I believe, are more likely inclined to do those donations. And so I just wanted to put out there, while we're talking about this, we might want to skip that bottle service once in a while. We might want, you know what I mean? Because the quality of life, to go out and celebrate and do that in the evening or whatever, you want to make sure that the day 9 to 5 is a priority. And so I just want to challenge us to start paying more attention to investing in these. It's dropping a sign, going to a rally, all of that good stuff. Going to a forum is good, but if we want to get them, as they say in politics, across the line,
Yeah.
it's going to take some of this.
Yes, it is. I couldn't agree with you more. And that's something again that our people need to be more. I would argue would need to start being more comfortable with.
Yeah.
There is no doubt that money influences politics, and also just the connotation that is a negative thing. I think is really what's hampering stuff. Like
And
this
that's
is
by design to some extent. I'm sorry.
right. No, and automatically when I'm out in the street talking to people, it's like, yeah, I'm a lobbyist that chairs a super PAC. They think that it's just terrible.
Yeah.
Like they think that I might as well, be up to criminal stuff, right? Because just the negative connotation of what that is in the atmosphere. Right. Yeah, I lobby for education, cannabis, and blockchain clients, and I'm looking to figure out how to make all of those equitable. Like blockchain and Web3 is the future, right? Essentially, how does that become equitable? There's bills in the legislature now that are focused on making sure that we get all of that, right? This chat GBT stuff, AI stuff going on. Are we going to get left out of that? Right now, yeah, we are. But anyway, I digress. And so the point is that there needs to be a different level of comfortability when it comes to super PACs with understanding what it is and what it can be used for. And especially things like when I say super PAC, oh, you want big money. Sure, of course I do. Who doesn't want the big money to be able to expend on candidates, right? But also, look, like I said, we've got campaign donations. We've got super PAC donations from each of the 14 counties across the Commonwealth, something we're very proud of. And they've been $5, $10, $15, $25,000. We got a couple recurring donors at $25 a month. And I don't know who these people are. I mean, we've emailed them and said thank you, but they just saw some stuff in the Globe or one of the pieces we got, WGBH or whatever, or they're probably catching it on Java with Jimmy. You might want to donate, right? But because they believe in what we're trying to do here, which is do something that, quite frankly, hasn't been done before, which is to support these down ballot candidates specifically. Like I said, I'm going to say it again, Jimmy. I know you told me not to, but never will we ever weigh into a race for mayor in any town in the Commonwealth or a race for governor, governor, secretary of state, lieutenant governor, auditor, right? Like we're not touching the constitutional offices and we're not touching the corner office. This is for the folks that are down ballot.
There's really I won't say when it comes to black candidates, I won't say there's enough investment, but those seats do have a certain tier and level of attention to them already.
Sure, totally, yeah.
There's the website, everyone. I'm going to also put it in the comments as well. So Eric, what's up, brother? Good to see you in the room. Haven't seen you in a while, brother. And so I'm putting the link in the comments as well, so you can go and do one particular thing here. We're going to bring up the website real quick so you can see it. And so this is the website. You can go in and build with us. You can sign up for the website, get their electronic mailers and emails. If there are candidates they would like to put out, they eventually, when they endorse, you can get information about the candidates they're endorsing. And though you're donating to them as well, though you're donating to the 1866 Action Fund, you could possibly also donate to that candidate directly as well.
Exactly.
66 wouldn't be mad that you would donating to those that are endorsed.
You're free to do what you want to do with your money.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is grassroots efforts. Like I said, this is going to be activations and mobilizations, and also very excited about it. We're going to do some polling, Jimmy, which is very exciting. I referenced the King Boston and the James Jennings, the Tufts survey about the shift in population. Data is king out here, as much as cash is king in politics or social issues, right? Data is king too.
That's how you draw your universe and you build your message. And
well, it's bigger than that. Sure, we want to be able to draw the universe, build the message, but it's also because this population is shifting. What are they caring about? What are they listening to? What matters to them? Is it east-west rail? Is it is it sports betting and all that stuff? Like what, as far as the issues that are occurring now in the atmosphere in the Commonwealth, what issues really matter to those people the most? How do they want to see their politicians be impactful? How do they want to be represented? And quite frankly, where are they? We're planning to target Black voters across the Commonwealth and get their input. So we're very excited about that. Actually, we're chatting with a few Black-owned polling firms who have done this work before, some in Massachusetts, some elsewhere. But yeah, we're very excited.
Reynolds, one, I'm very, I'm maybe a year or two older than you. I'm very proud of you, sir. And tell the
Thank you.
folks, if you don't mind, how old you are.
I'm 34 years old, born July 23rd, 1988.
So I'm a couple
Feeling
years older than you. But I named that only because, you know, as much as a lot of negative things are perpetuated in the media about folks that look like us, there are some powerful, impactful, passionate, leaderful Black men that are moving in spaces. Sometimes it's good to move in silence, and sometimes it's good to ensure that we have brothers like Reynolds in front of us to just continue to let folks know that there's some good folks and good brothers out here that are doing great things in our community, while
Thank you, Jimmy.
you see in mainstream media sometimes perpetuate other stuff.
I mean, look at Tennessee, man. You know, look at Tennessee. You had those two brothers standing up for what they believed in when it came to gun violence, and they kicked them out the legislature. Wild.
Well, how about they're right back in?
I know, which is great, because that is the power of the people. But also, they are
made that decision. Guess who made the decisions to put them back in? It was brought back to what? The local
city, the down
ballot. You better preach here.
Exactly. So look, you're seeing the importance and the effectiveness that down ballot candidates and down ballot office holders can actually have. It's not, yes, it is the rubber meets the road on the local level, but there are implications for what they are advocating for in their chambers that they serve for the national level of just everything that's going on. And in this particular instance in Tennessee, it was gun violence. It could be in Massachusetts, it could be something about housing. You know, in California, it could be something about, you know, cannabis equity or whatever, or transgender rights. Like, it could be any issue that affects our people. It hits us hardest and first at the local office. And, you know, and it's funny too, it's irony, the whole not coordinating with campaigns thing, right? A friend of mine was teasing me the other day. We launched in February because, you know, Black History Month made sense. I think all this stuff in Tennessee started happening in March, right? And somebody literally, I don't know if they were serious, but a friend of mine was like, so was that planned? I'm like, no, it wasn't planned. Like, I don't even know. Like, it was just literally just ironic. You know, they were obviously teasing me, but the irony is that there was already the need to support these down ballot Black candidates.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, we're excited. And if anything, that just kind of helped our cause. It was a prime example of, like, see, look, the down ballot stuff, these candidates that are in the legislature can really affect change, you know, on the ground floor.
I just want to review some of the action steps, because we want to walk away with action. Is raise the reality of the issues, the issues Black candidates face. One of them are lack of funds to stay viable, especially in Boston. In the state, viability is huge. Get the word out to Black candidates about the 1866 Action Fund. If you're encouraging somebody, hey, baby, I think you would make a good city councilor or good town selectman. Don't just do that. One, plan on supporting them, and two, tell them about this fund. The other thing is donate to Black candidates and the fund, and also go visit and sign up for the 1866actionfund.com. Consider, I know $5 is typically the lowest, but if you can only make a $2, $3, $4, $5 commitment a month, once you do it, you don't kind of miss it. And so I'm going to challenge myself to do that as well.
I appreciate it. Look, a dollar for this cause is more than, you know, we would say has been focused on before. So we'll take 50 cents if we could, right? It's
adds up. It might be the difference of you hitting yes or no. If 100 people are giving $1 and that adds up as $1,200 difference, that might make a decision on somebody's budget for a mailer.
Yeah, exactly. So, and, you know, and we are looking to do a pretty big launch later in the summer, ahead of probably when we have our endorsed candidates, right? Pretty big launch. And we need volunteers for that. You know, we'll need folks to help with that. We'll need folks to help volunteer on some of our grassroots, you know, kind of door-to-door knocking activations, or our phone banks, or just to kind of get the word out and be ambassadors for the fund, right? So we're looking for volunteers for sure. This is very much a grassroots effort.
Okay.
And we're proud to be raising, you know, dollars for Black candidates, for Black votes with Black vendors, which is really great. You know, the folks on the team are majority, Black team. So it's great.
Don't forget your small Black and brown owned media vendor outlets as well. Okay.
Gotcha, Jimmy.
But
I know where to find you, man.
I've been messing with this dude, y'all. But Reynolds, I really appreciate you, man. Thank you for spending the time with us this morning, because even in the afterwatch, I think folks are really going to be challenged to pay more attention to the process, as well as, again, making sure that Black candidates get in office around a presumption that we share, but values is a major thing, right along with that. So don't forget, folks, you can go to the website 1866actionfund.com. There was a question about the significance of 1866, so I did put that. Thank God for cut and paste right off the website.
There you go. There you go. And Jimmy, I will say the best way people can support this effort, the absolute best way, is that people can register to vote, and they can vote.
Number one.
That is the number one way that you can be supportive. Vote, be participant in your democracy, and
that's free.
That's free. And
it wasn't always free. Oh God, because it wasn't free in general, but it's free now. But it didn't come free.
And as Barack Obama said in his final address, if you see that there is an issue in your community that you hope to effectuate and change, pick up a clipboard, go get some signatures, and run for office yourself. We encourage folks to do that as well. But it's not just about running for office and being all in the glamour and everything too. Be active in your ward committee, volunteer in your community. Just be an active citizen. That's the most powerful thing I think people can do, is be a citizen and care about your fellow neighbor, the folks around you, your community. But vote, be participant in the democracy. We're watching that we, specifically Black men, are one of the part of the electorate that is fading out of the act, just gone, like poof.
That's a whole other Zoom in itself, bro.
Yeah, and so you've got the brothers in Tennessee doing the damn thing, right? And we've got folks up here in Massachusetts doing the thing. However, our votes are kind of, we are not a voting block anymore necessarily, because we are diminishing in numbers of registered voters among Black people, and specifically Black men.
And we're diminishing to some extent within legislatures and local. And that we can walk and chew gum at the same time and raise our queens and sisters and still support Black men as well, because we need both of those sets of experience too, because we know that there are things that specifically impact Black women, and there are things that specifically impact Black men, and then there's things that specifically impact us because we're Black.
Sure. And like for me, my mom's mom died giving birth to my mother. I never met my grandmother on my mom's side. And so for me, Black women's maternal health is a huge issue that I really care passionately about. That's why I ran the Boston Marathon for the Dimmick Center. They really support Black women's maternal health initiatives. That Black women's maternal health is one of the public health issues facing Black women that certainly has a policy space that needs to be effectuated with change. Right. And so there's an opportunity here to really elect folks that can speak to that. And
someone raised the other day, Reynolds, and I just thought about this, and I got to remember who I was talking to, so I remember who it was. Just write down the name Ariel. I need to connect you with Ariel, because there's another component to the maternal health thing. While we got to center the woman that's carried and may have lost the child, there's also a father impacted by that. And so how do we help raise, we're in a whole different space now, but how do we help raise that, and also help men understand what women are going through, even down to postpartum, because it can still be
Yeah. I mean, look, on the ballot, on the down ballot, yes, there are city councilor candidates, school committee candidates, state house, state senate, but also, especially this cycle and this time going around here, I think folks know, and you'd agree with me, Jimmy, that justice is on the ballot, COVID-19 recovery is on the ballot, public health is, school is on the ballot, public safety is on the ballot, economic development, housing is on the ballot. These are issues that Black candidates can effectuate a serious change in policy for the better, greater good of our growing demographic around this Commonwealth. And eventually we hope to take this show on the road, but right now we are being very focused on here in Massachusetts, and this is already evolving, and we're already having conversations about a campaign school to be able to train up Black candidates, or potential Black candidates, but also operatives too. One of the hardest things we've had getting out of here and putting this team together is finding somebody Black to help us raise the money. We brought on a great treasurer that has worked with candidates, Black and white, that knows and understands the intricate OCPF filings around a super PAC. This is specific. Office of Campaign Political Finance in Massachusetts. There are as much as they have limited there are interesting limits in Massachusetts around the donations. The filing process around this stuff is extremely intricate and it's like you got to step out for it. I'm like, I don't even want to touch it. But we brought on one of the best teams, right, with that. But as far as actually somebody just to do the filings, right? But as far as finding someone to sit with us and make the calls, right, and follow up on that person we saw in the orchestra said, oh yeah, hey, I want to put together a fundraiser for you and all that stuff, and follow down and call down all that stuff. It's hard to find. There aren't a lot of Black people or people of color in Massachusetts in general that do money. And quite frankly, in political campaigns, I would argue that they don't let us touch two things. They don't let us touch the money and they don't let us touch the message. In campaigns, you typically find that people who do the communications and raise the cash are not Black. Typically on a campaign, the people who are Black are those who are the field organizer, right? Or the community of color organizer.
First of all, we got it. Words matter. We got to stop changing that. We're going to have to find a new word for the damn field.
So. I would love to see electorate organizer or, external vote, whatever. Voter turnout, something. But keeping us in the field is not okay. And we, it is time for us to really be able to utilize our skills and grow our skills in different ways. And so we are already having serious conversations about putting together, a campaign school to support the development of those who, that person who just started register to vote at 18, they want to get involved. So we're trying to do that too.
In every intricate role. And let's just also name about the economic impact. You get folks in school, you get them trained, they get on these campaigns. If the proper money is raised, they are also getting paid.
Yeah, exactly.
And paid what they're worth, because some of us have done a lot because we believe in candidates and the values that if we were to ever issue an invoice, it would be very interesting.
Yeah, the seven zeros there. But look, we've already proven it. We talked about at the top of the hour here. Future interns are future mayors. Interns are future campaign managers for presidential campaigns. Interns are future chief of staffs in the White House. Interns are future legal counsels to the governor. So also just building the bench that way with the internal workings of an office or organizations. Really got to start building that out. It's important, man. I've been in way too many war rooms on campaigns, but I've been the only one who looks like me. Too many to count. I've lost count. I've been a part of probably 15 or 20 campaigns in my time, and I've worked for 13 politicians with different names on the door each time. And often there's nobody looking like me. I was a White House intern. How many Black people do you think were in that? And it was Obama's administration. There weren't a lot.
You about to have the folks jump on you. Don't talk about our Black president. No, I'm missing.
I'm just saying, but it's really about those who even go for that and those who even make it through the process.
The poll. Let's talk. So that's real. We remember when who was it? Romney came out with his binder and whatnot.
Binder full of women.
Yeah, but
nuts.
To that point, we have to be aligned. Where the school comes in, we have to participate so we can jump in that pool.
Yeah.
It is the thing of creating opportunities and access. But when opportunity and access is open like this, and we only got about this many people that are qualified and experienced, and yes, experience is an issue because you got to get in at some point to get experience, and folks don't want to give people without experience a chance to get the experience. But there is a level of, and I talked about this last week, there is a level of accountability and responsibility that we have as individuals to, despite all we deal with, despite what to attempt to still try to fight and push through a lot of the BS that limits us.
Yeah, man. I know we're at time, but before we go, I just want to say to you.
Hold on. Let me just go while you say, let me just make sure I don't got it 10 o'clock. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to say to you, Jimmy, and I said this at the top of the hour, but man, I am, look, we met, like you said, in 08 or 10 or whatever. If you told me then that you're going to have a podcast platform that is reaching the masses, I'd be like, what is, yeah, okay, let's see it. But you've done it, and it's great.
Wait a minute, hold on. I can see you sitting on the 6th floor in your cubicle and just sitting.
Because I was in the press office too. So if you're like, I'm going to make a podcast, it's going to reach. So could not express really, and we were supposed to catch up personally, but since we're doing all the show here, can't express how proud I am of you for building this thing out. This came out of, clearly it's a labor of love for you.
Yes,
but
sir.
you are meeting people where they're at. You are reaching folks where they're supposed to be, which is in their communities. I think that there's a future. Look, we lost Arsenio Hall. He's no longer hosting the show. You can fill that void, man. Like I like the morning thing,
I
though,
don't
right?
know.
You can't really, I'm just saying, you can't really do Java at night, right? But
Oh, no,
even
no,
though
no. There's a whole
you
different
do,
brand
I know,
called
yeah, yeah.
Java After Dark.
My point is, though, man, you are doing it for the culture out here. You're doing it for the community. I couldn't be more proud of you to see you do this. You've really changed the game and really put people's voices out here. And I know you do the thing with like the health thing. You do mental health Mondays. You do We Need to Know Wednesdays. Like it's just great. It's great. I've been tuning in, and as you know, I moved away and came back, but I was always a fan of the show and always been watching it. And so it was an honor to be here with you today. I feel like this is our first broadcast media hit. We've got a few print media
real?
hits. So
Okay.
yeah, and I
I'll
made
make sure
sure
you
that
get
we
the
wanted
file.
to do this one first. We've got other offers from TV channels and whatnot, but I was telling my team like, no, man, I want to go on Java with Jimmy. So that's why I pinged your team a few times because we knew that we wanted to reach the people first, and the only place to really do that, because you uniquely do it, is right here with you fine folks having coffee in the morning. So thank you, Jimmy, for what you're doing, man. Appreciate you.
You messed me up. I'm going to get you. I'll make sure your team has the file since this was the first appearance on broadcast social media. But
Cool.
Stay tuned because GBH things are happening soon. So we'll
There
talk.
you go.
Reynolds, I appreciate you, man. Folks, don't forget, go check out the website. And it is in the comments for you to hyperlink directly to that. So I appreciate you. And I just want to appreciate this good brother in the room, Joseph Scott. I see you, brother. And
thank you, Joseph.
See you soon. All right, Reynolds. Thank you, man.
All right.
You probably got a 10 o'clock. So
I do.
To you, man.
Vote. Just please vote.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Appreciate
Thanks, Jimmy.
Folks, that was definitely amazing. Listen, we're a little bit over time, but it was well worth it. Just want to remind you of a few things. Don't forget that you can attend the health fair that is taking place on Saturday, May 20th from 11 to 3 a.m. You can go right there to register. Let me put it in the comments as well, so you can hyperlink directly there. Health Fair Reg 23. All right. I need you to register if you would like to be eligible automatically. If you were one of the first 100 people to register and one of the first 50 people to check in and show up, your name is automatically entered in a raffle to win a $100 gift card. That's just one of the gift cards. We're giving away gift cards, prizes. There might be a flat screen TV being given away. I definitely cannot name that without also appreciating our platinum sponsor, Jensen, a division of Johnson & Johnson that is sponsoring this health fair. And I would be remiss if I did not also highlight Dr. Joseph Betancourt, who was major and shepherded the starting of Your Healthy Java. We're naming the health fair after him. And so for those of you that never got a chance to meet him, come out and meet him that day. We're going to love on him. We're going to share information with our community. Things are coming together well. My brain's a little crazy. Miss Teresa is working on giveaways. There's going to be a lot of giveaways, but the most important thing that we're giving away is information about healthcare. Out of all of this, being able to vote, participating, donating. If you're not healthy and here and alive, can't do none of that. So, y'all know, y'all have heard it before. Health is wealth. And so please make sure you come out and get that information. Also, a little behind with this. I wanted to get it out last week, and I'll be very honest with you all. Yes, I'm under the gun. But the response has been great. I only have 12 slots. Listen, if you know a high school sophomore, junior, or senior, know that they've been impacted by COVID. All of us have been. And if they are an artist, a poet, social media influencer, if they're good on TikTok. Now, listen, let me talk about social media influence. I want them to be more on the positive side. Okay. There's some social media stuff that, no judgment. But if they're a social media influencer, a writer, or a rapper who may be interested in health and wellness as a career, and if they would like to be a part of creating a public health campaign around wellness And if these young people could use $500 at the end of this 8-week program starting next week, I need to hear from them. Make sure they go out and fill out the application. It's sensitive. I'll put this in the comments as well as the other one. For those of you that are a part of the Union Capital Points program, Sharon just put in the comments that you all get, which is so, I can't believe that this show gets you all points for community participation. I got to hit Eric up. And I know Sharon facilitated that. Let me stay focused. So I put in the comments the link for you to go ahead. It should be hyperlinked. Oh God, y'all are not playing about the I'm getting emails as we speak about the health fair. Okay, let me get back here. So Healthy 617, young people will get $500 at the end of the 8 weeks. They're going to help create a public health and wellness campaign for young people, by young people. They get that $500. They also get trained in information. And guess what? They get transferable skills. They will forever be able to use this experience on a resume. They can list me as a reference that they are working for me. And guess what? These young people are getting $25 an hour. Have them fill out that information to be a part of Healthy 617. All right, y'all, I'm tired. Reynolds wore me out today, and I got the heat on in here because it's a little cold outside. And so, yes, we will see you how could I forget? So, Thursday is usually my Friday, but not this week. We have a very special Java with Jimmy tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I have the Massachusetts Department of Education secretary here with us, Mr. Secretary Patrick. I got to get them to phonetically spell out his name, and I'm not going to butcher it. But Secretary Patrick from the Department of Education will be with us tomorrow at 9 a.m. So we're having a special Freestyle Fridays to talk about the status of education in Massachusetts. Parents, advocates, lobbyists that Reynolds talked about in the education space. We need to see you here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, a special edition of Freestyle Fridays. Whew. All right. That's it for me today, y'all. I can't say see y'all Monday because we'll be here tomorrow, but we'll see y'all tomorrow at 9 a.m. Have a great day, everybody. And remember to be thankful, be intentional about thankfulness.